Hi, I'm author Kate Messner, and today for First Chapter Friday, I want to read the beginning of a picture book called First Ascent, the epic Yosemite rock climbing rivalry of Royal Robbins and Warren Harding. This one is written by me and illustrated by Stevie Lewis. There's our title page with El Capitan at Yosemite National Park. It might seem as if Royal Robbins and Warren Harding had nothing in common. Royal was thoughtful and quiet. Warren was wild and loud. Royal liked books and classical music. Warren liked parties. But they both loved rocks, big rocks. Royal got his first taste of rock climbing in elementary school. He didn't have the happiest childhood. He wasn't great at school and he couldn't throw a ball, but he loved scrambling over boulders on the ocean breakwall. When Royal was about 14, he went climbing in the High Sierra. It felt like magic when his hands touched that rock. For the first time in his life, he felt good at something. After that trip, Royal devoured books about climbing. Soon it was all he could think about. He wanted to climb bigger rocks, and then even bigger ones. By 17, he was spending all his free time with climbers and tackling harder routes than anyone. One day, an older guy named Warren Harding showed up at Taquit's Rock. Like Royal, Warren hadn't found much in life that he was good at. And like Royal, everything changed when his hands touched rocks. Warren had already become the first person to complete two big climbs at Yosemite National Park. Imagine making it to the top of a difficult climb before anyone else in the whole world. That's called a first ascent, and rock climbers live for it. It wasn't long before Royal and Warren tried to climb together, and then cooked up plans to climb something bigger. In 1955, Royal and Warren set out with two friends to scale the northwest face of Half Dome, a 2,000-foot ascent up a massive granite wall. No one had climbed it before. They packed their gear and started up. A handhold here, a foothold there. They climbed and climbed, but 3 days later, they weren't even a quarter of the way to the top. Running low on food and water, they called off the climb and rappelled down, lowering themselves to the Yosemite Valley floor with a system of ropes. That's when Royal and Warren realized they had one more thing in common. They both hated giving up. So you might think these two climbers would make plans to return and try again. And they did, but not together. 2 years later, Royal heard that Warren was getting ready to nab that first ascent of Half Dome with a different team of climbers. There was no way Royal was going to let that happen. He had to get there first. By then, Royal knew what to expect for the first part of the climb. Before noon on the second day, he and his partners were halfway up. They zigged and zagged up the cliff, a foothold here, a handhold there, until suddenly there was nothing but smooth blank wall. No holds for their hands or feet, no cracks for placing gear. The only way to continue was to start drilling holes for bolts to climb. It was brutal, slow work, hour after hour in the hot June sun. Tap, tap, tap. One more bolt, one more step up that massive face of rock. Finally, hanging on a rope with no handholds or footholds in sight, Royal spotted a ledge that led to a series of chimneys, cracks so big a person could climb up inside them. If he could reach that ledge, the team would be able to keep going. There was just one problem. Royal was nowhere near that ledge. It was 40 feet away. So you know what Royal did? He had his partner lower him on the rope, and he started running across that vertical wall, swinging back and forth like a pendulum. back and forth, thousands of feet above the valley floor, dangling from a single metal bolt that had been placed in the rock. Finally, Royal felt that rocky ledge under his hand and held on for dear life. After the sunset, Royal and his partner sent a coded message to a friend on the ground. They wanted to keep their climb a secret for now, so they waited for just the right moment. Every night at 9 o'clock, park workers pushed a cascade of embers off Glacier Point, creating a spectacle called the Firefall to entertain park visitors. It was dazzling, it was breathtaking, and it was a perfect distraction. That night, while all eyes were on the Firefall, the climbers switched on a flashlight. 2 flashes, a pause, 2 more. Their friend on the ground would understand the signal. They were okay and continuing their climb. No rescue was needed tonight. The next morning, the climbers made their way up more narrow cracks. Above them loomed an enormous overhang and a big question. How were they going to get past that? Had they come all this way only to fail? Just then, they spotted a long, narrow ledge that led around the overhang to a final stretch of climbing. Inch by harrowing inch, they made their way across. Thank God! That's what they called it, the Thank God Ledge. They reached the summit on their 5th day of climbing with 2 hours of sunlight to spare. And guess who was waiting for them? Warren Harding. He'd put together his own team for the climb, but arrived at the base to find that Royal was already halfway to the top. So Warren didn't climb. Instead, he trekked up the 8-mile hiker's trail with water and ham sandwiches. "Congratulations," was what he said out loud. But inside, he was thinking, how am I going to top this? When Warren hiked down Half Dome, he looked up and found his answer. El Capitan, the granite giant of Yosemite, towered 3,000 feet above the valley floor. People said it would never be climbed. That was it. Warren was going to climb El Cap. And that is where this fierce rivalry begins. You can see there are lots more adventures on the rest of these pages. Some days the climbing went really well, and some days, well, not so much. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this book. You can find it at your favorite bookstore or pick it up at the library. First Ascent, the epic Yosemite rock climbing rivalry of Royal Robbins and Warren Harding.